Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Emily. In today's video, we are going to be doing 4 thrift flips or upcycles on items. So 2 of the items I got from the thrift store a while ago. They're both mirrors, and in this one, it just has a little bit too much of an orange tint, so it's not really my thing. So I'm gonna try and darken this up a little bit. And then the other mirror, which you can see here, it's really heavy, but I will include a picture of this before I start doing anything to it. In this mirror, it has a black trim already on it, and I decided to try a black wash on the stained area of the mirror. So I'm really excited to see how that turns out. And for the other 2 pieces, so this was a home decor piece at one point, and a while ago I just turned this into a tray on like a coffee table that I had, but I am ready to do something new with this, give it new life. So I'm gonna end up turning this into a riser, I think. And for the last piece, if you don't know yet, my husband is a woodworker, so I get tons and tons of scrap wood from him, so that is super cool. In this case, I have this, I'm not really quite sure what type of wood this is, so I'm gonna have to ask him, and I'll leave it down here, what type of wood this is. But it is a solid piece of wood, it is nice and heavy, it is beautiful, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna end up making this a riser as well. For the feet for the risers, I actually have these from Hobby Lobby. And when I was out thrifting, I found a pack of the same exact size wood pieces. So I grabbed those, and these are what I'm gonna use for the feet. So if this is something that you're interested in, if you love thrift flips, DIY projects, then stick around, grab yourself a cup of coffee, grab yourself a drink, whatever you'd like, and let's get started. I really wanted to darken the wicker part of this mirror. It was just a little too orange for me. So I thought that if I just grabbed the regular antiquing wax from Waverly, then I could just apply it to the entire piece and it would be done just like that. Well, I realized that it wasn't really like applying as smoothly as I was hoping, so I ended up mixing a little bit of water with the antique wax to make it more liquidy, and I just applied it with a paintbrush and I let that sit. And this was after the first coat, and you can see the difference between what the antiquing wax with the water mixture did and with what it was before. So I end up doing 2 coats of that antiquing wax with the water, and I just let it sit and dry, and I love how it turned out. It looks great in my house now, and it goes with the decor that I have. For this mirror, I wanted to try doing a black wash on it. I haven't really done a true black wash before, so I was kind of winging it. Well, so what I ended up doing was I was using the Waverly chalk paint ink, and I have a little jar of water. So as you can see, I have a little bit of chalk paint on my brush, and then I dip it in the water, and then I apply it to the mirror. Well, I forgot when I first got this piece that I applied antiquing wax to it to kind of richen up that brown color. So it wasn't really applying as well as I thought it was going to. As you can see, it kind of, it's like repelling kind of from the wax. So I did the best I could with the water and the chalk paint, and I let it sit a little bit, and then I took a paper towel and I just brushed the mirror in areas so you kind of get that washed effect. And again, I absolutely love how this turned out. To seal it, I did use Dixie Belle Best Dang Wax. I never used this product before, so this was my first time using it, and you can see that it goes on white, but it dries clear, and it doesn't really have like a super shiny finish to it, which I love. To start this project, I sanded down the maple block, and I softened all of the edges so that they weren't sharp. I just rounded them over a little bit, and I used 220 grit sandpaper for the entire block. I stained the top and sides of the wood block with dark walnut by Minwax, and I also stained the feet with the same stain. I did not stain the bottom because I am using wood glue to adhere the feet to the block, and wood glue works best when you do not have like a stain or paint in between your pieces. So I applied the wood glue. I let it sit for like 20 or so minutes before I flipped it over and let it dry overnight, and then I stained the bottom part of the block. I wanted to add a grain sack stripe, and I'm gonna try and explain this because I know I didn't do it as probably as easy as I possibly could have, and I probably made it more difficult for myself, but I found the center of the wood block and I did the larger strip of painter's tape that I have, and then I took a skinnier piece of painter's tape and I just kind of guessed the size strip that I wanted for the top and the bottom, and I tried to make them as even as possible, and I made sure that the painter's tape went down both sides of the wood block so the sides were also painted and it wasn't just the top. So once I got the painter's tape even and smooth, then I painted those stripes with the Waverly chalk paint with the color ink. And I only had to use one coat because it has such great coverage. I peeled up the painter's tape once I was done painting. I didn't really let it dry when I peeled up the painter's tape, but I made sure that it was completely dry before I went on to the next step, which was adding the next strip of painter's tape for the center portion. So here, this is where I made it more difficult for myself. I ended up having to guesstimate roughly where I wanted the thicker strip to be. So I just took my time and I got it as even as possible to my eye, and I was trying to make sure that there was just a little bit of a gap between the thin strip and the thicker strip. So that's what I was looking at to make sure that they were roughly the same distance. And I just go back in and paint with the Waverly chalk paint ink, and I peel up the tape and I let it fully dry before I clear coat it. So I forgot that I lightly distressed this piece before I clear coated it. I just took a sand grit pad. I don't remember if this is 220 or 180, but I just distressed it just slightly, just to how it looked appealing to me, and then I clear coated it. And I used Big Top by DIY Paint to clear coat it, and I applied one coat to the entire piece, and then on the top part of the block, I applied 2 coats. And I was nervous that the Big Top was going to smear the chalk paint when I applied it, but it didn't. It worked perfect. But if you are worried that it's going to smear, then just do a light spray of a poly coat before you apply your clear coat with a paintbrush. All right, so our final project is this piece that I had already started to flip a while ago, and I used Dixie Belle paint, and I cannot remember what chalk paint color it was, but I did clear coat it. So it has a clear coat on it, and I wanted to distress it a little bit, so I used a sand block, and I think this was 220, and I had to use a lot of pressure because I had put a clear coat on it, but I just distressed the edges and the corners until I got it how I liked, and then I was ready to put the feet on. And I stained the feet in the same color as the other feet, which was Dark Walnut by Minwax. And again, I did not paint the bottom piece for this because I was using Starbond and I wanted to make sure I had the best hold as possible. So I apply the super glue to the wood foot, and then I spray the accelerator to the riser piece, and then I hold it down for like 10 seconds maybe, and it's like a instant permanent hold. It is awesome. I use Starbond for everything. Like, I even fixed our kitchen faucet using Starbond. That's how much I love this stuff and how well it works. There was a little imperfection on the riser that I wanted to cover, so I decided to use a transfer, and this is a transfer from Prima, and I will link it in the description. This is only my second time using a transfer, so I was still kind of figuring out how it works, but I cut the piece off that I wanted, and once I applied it to the surface, I used the burnishing tool that it came with to burnish the entire transfer onto the piece. And I was using like medium pressure to burnish the transfer, and I just take my thumbnail to kind of peel up the corner and see if the transfer is coming off of the carrier sheet or if it is still on the carrier sheet. And if it is coming up onto the carrier sheet, then I just keep burnishing it until it goes onto the riser. It took me a little while to figure out what I wanted to do, but I finally added these two other pieces and learned from my mistakes here because I ended up overlapping these two transfers, which you will see, and it didn't, you could see the leaf through the flower, which I didn't think you would be able to see, but you can. So if you can avoid it, then just trim as much as possible of your trim your transfers and don't overlap them if you can help it. So if you can kind of see, there's like the green leaf poking through part of the rose, and I was really bummed, but I'm still really happy with how it turned out. So I just took that sanding paper again, and I ran it over top of the transfer to kind of make it look more worn in and that it was like always a part of that piece. And to seal this piece, I used Big Top again by DIY Paint, and I applied 2 coats to this just like the other one. All right, guys, what did you think of those 4 flips? I'm kind of torn on which one my favorite is because I love that wood riser with the black like green sack stripe. I love it, and I think that's my husband's favorite piece too because he keeps saying that he really likes how it turned out. But I also really love the mirror that I did the black wash on. That was really like my first time doing it, and I just love how it turned out. That's all I can say. So I'm kind of torn between the riser and the mirror. So definitely let me know in the comments which one was your favorite piece. And if you like these style videos, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.